Oscar Roche, Director of the TWI Institute and Visual Workplace Australasia. We also will hear from Gene Kashik, a Strategy Manager and Lean Coach at Manufacturers Resource Center, an MEP here in the United States. You'll meet Gene here shortly. So for now, Oscar, I'm going to go ahead and turn things over to you.
Excellent, Dwayne. Thank you. Thank you very much for the introduction, and welcome everyone. I very much appreciated that you've spent the time with us. Firstly, let's go back and just reflect on the Toyota Kata research. So my understanding through discussions with Mike Rother is that up until late 90s, early 2000s, he and his colleagues at Uni of Michigan sort of understood that there was a little bit more to lean and continuous improvement beyond the visual stuff that we'd seen up to that point, and that we were really trying to copy up to that point. That is the results and the lean tools and practices. So due to that thinking there was something missing, Mike did quite a bit of research between 2004, 2009, and the result was the Toyota Kata book. And in there, he identified the less visible stuff, as he calls it. Two things: a systematic scientific way of thinking and acting, and managers of teaching the people this way of actually thinking. So in that visible stuff, we're used to the things like 5S, A3s, Kanban, those sort of lean tools that we're pretty familiar with, and we became very familiar with during the 90s and through the 2000s, and even still now. What we're seeking to do here is discuss where this less visible stuff fits in with A3s. So how does that systematic scientific way of thinking and acting, managers teaching the people this way, fit in with A3s? So let's quickly review A3 thinking and a couple of flaws that I certainly have experienced. So this process you see is taken from this book, A3 Understanding A3 Thinking. Very quickly, the A3 process mapped out: grasp this current situation, identify the root cause, devise countermeasures, create a plan, follow-up and a follow-up plan, obtain approval, execute the plan, execute the follow-up plan, have our targets been met, and if no, around we go again. If yes, establish the new standard. And that's very much framed around Plan, Do, Check, Act, I think, as most of us would be familiar with. Flaw number one: a lot of times we to grasp the current situation, we just look at the data. And we think that if we gather the data, then we have grasped the current situation. Whereas in actual fact, if we only grab the data, we're missing the facts, and that is the understanding of what is causing the data to show what it shows. Grasping the current situation is more than just gathering data, and I know I was very guilty of that in my early days of A3 thinking. We need to gather the facts which actually support the data or explain the data, if that makes more sense. The second flaw is in conducting the root cause analysis, and opinions and feelings, not facts, coming into that root cause analysis. We can be pretty strong-minded about certain things. We can have pretty strong opinions, and they tend to merge into us thinking that they're facts. So a couple of flaws that I've certainly experienced myself, and that I've witnessed in facilitating or observing others doing A3 thinking. Before Gene gives you his case study, I'm just going to go through three opportunities that the combination of A3 thinking and Toyota Kata brings together. Opportunity one, you can see here the improvement Kata is up on the screen. 4 steps: get the direction or challenge, grasp the current condition, establish your next target condition with a date being the 3rd step of the improvement Kata, and the 4th step of the improvement Kata being conduct experiments to get there. Grasping the current condition is the facts and data available now. When we're learning the improvement Kata, practicing it, we very much emphasize the facts and data available now. It's not just about data, it's about the facts and the data. And maybe it'd be more correct to say this, that what we need to obtain is the facts that give rise to the data. In other words, it's the way the system is operating now that gives rise to the data we see. So the data might be a cycle time of 2 minutes. The facts that give rise to that cycle time are the things that are happening within that 2 minutes that cause the 2 minutes to be the 2 minutes. And I just want to read you a paragraph from page 21 of the book, Understanding A3 Thinking, which sort of leads into my next point. It says the importance of this act, that is observing the problem and its context firsthand, is never understated within Toyota. One of the reasons we feel that Toyota places such emphasis on it is it is a highly effective way to confront one's own assumptions, misconceptions, and biases regarding a certain situation. The problem solver may think that a certain task is done a certain way, but must confirm it through first-hand observation of the actual work process. He or she may soon discover that his or her original conception was only approximately correct. The reason that that statement really stuck out and hit me when I read it in preparing for this was that it ties in with this next point here. And that, for those of you who've read the practice guide and are practicing Toyota Kata, or have been to any of the Kata cons or read the Toyota Kata book, have seen this illustration about the current knowledge threshold, and you'd have heard many people talk about it, and it's certainly something that Mike emphasizes. And that is this concept of the knowledge threshold. We have a certain amount of knowledge up to this point, but what happens is our brain fills in blanks, and it happens automatically, quickly and silently, such that we confuse opinions and feelings with facts. They become facts to us, if you like, through our brain, a natural reaction of the brain filling in the blanks, because our brain likes things to make sense. So the knowledge threshold is the point at which the data and the facts end. So how does this relate back to A3 thinking? As we grasp the current condition, the more data and facts we get, the more further to the right our knowledge threshold is going to be. And therefore, the more reliable our root cause analysis will be. I've always sort of been, not mystified, but not really truly understood why we hear that Japanese managers continually force people to go back and go see again. And I think, to me, this makes sense now, is they do that because the data is not enough. We need to get the facts to support the data to complete the grasp of the current situation. So opportunity number 3, there's an impact here on the action list in our A3 plans. Step 3 in the improvement kata is to establish target conditions. So how does this tie in with A3 thinking and this knowledge threshold bit? The way I see it and the way I've applied it at a dairy factory, any issues to the left of our knowledge threshold became just actions. Action 1, action 2, action 3. Anything to the right of the threshold, if you like, became target conditions. So you can see that line up here, but you can also see the line in the action plan. Above is just straight actions. They are the just do it's. Below the knowledge threshold line, they are the target conditions that we strive for. So actions just do it, target conditions below the knowledge threshold line in the A3 plan, they are the things we strive for. Now you will note here that there's a couple of target conditions now, and that sort of goes against the kosher. We should work on one at a time. Reality is we worked on more than one target condition where the 2 target conditions were unrelated. So in essence, what's happening in A3 thinking and combining A3 thinking with Toyota Kata is your action lists, the execute the implementation plan, the action lists become a combination of just do it and actually experimenting. We get there by step 4 of the improvement kata, experimenting towards our target conditions. That's a bit of background theory and my experience. And let's move on to Gene and his case study. So over to you, Gene.
Thank you, Oscar. So our case study, last summer, we started working with a very fast-growing specialty food company. Their products are a meat-based, ready-to-eat product that is sold in the refrigerator section in supermarkets. And they've been having tremendous market growth over recent years. And that growth is outpacing their current capacity to manufacture their products. So part of this is causing them to do many line changeovers. And the reason for that is they do many different package sizes based upon what supermarket and what market they're servicing with their products. And likewise, with the growth of the company, there's many new team members involved. So, and those new team members have somewhat limited experience with the products they're making, and in some cases, even with food manufacturing. They've come from other industries and are now in a different environment. So they don't have the ingrained knowledge throughout this entire team. So this growth that the company has been experiencing is creating, actually in this case, a very good problem to solve. We need more capacity. They need to increase their production throughput by about 25%. Taking that as our challenge or as our guiding light, a team was formed, and this team was cross-functional in nature. So this company have used A3 problem solving in the past, and they've had somewhat decent results with it. But since this team that we were just about to get going with this project had somewhat limited knowledge, we thought integrating some of the Kata patterns into the A3 would be a valuable addition to the A3 process. Let's try an experiment, if you will. So the first thing that we focused on was that we wanted to be clear on their current condition. They were tracking what I would call some basic output metrics, elements such as pounds per day, and some major downtime events. These are things probably in any production environment we would track. And we started asking our journalistic questions to help connect the dots to some of these output metrics. And in doing so, in helping to connect those dots, it required a few of these go and see experiments. As Oscar mentioned, going out to the Gemba to really help establish what should be our first target condition. And prior to the start of this project, we did provide training to the team, and that training actually motivated them to go out there and try these go and see experiments. They wanted to learn more about it, and this type of experimentation was relatively risk-free, and they gained a really good understanding of their current condition. These go and see experiments that the team performed really encouraged them to track additional process metrics that maybe they weren't focused on before, and to focus on them in more detail. For example, some of these included machine jams, machine stoppages, those quick interruptions that were not captured as part of your major downtime events, and in some cases, some damaged packaging that had to be disposed of. So when we did these next level measurements, the number of these, what I would call minor stoppages, basically 90 seconds or less, added up to about 2 hours of lost capacity over a course of a day, which was a tremendous find that the team really had some aha moments about. So this observation of these go and see experiments led the team to establish that first target condition, and that is to run at an elevated rate without incurring these minor stoppages. So after we set our target condition, we started going down the path of our root cause analysis. Why are we not meeting the packaging production requirements due to minor stoppages? It almost felt like we were only identifying reasons that we already knew about and perhaps attempted to try to overcome before. It felt like, much like the example here on the slide, it felt like we were only looking in the rearview mirror. If you see at the bottom, just a few of these obstacles that we kind of knew about were in our line of sight. So the team decided, let's go back and rephrase this question. So we asked the question in this way: what obstacles are stopping us from meeting our target condition? Although it's very subtle, it had a different feel to it. It was now like we were looking out the front windshield as you're driving this project forward. And by asking this in this fashion, a few more obstacles which are just beyond our line of sight that maybe we thought, maybe we didn't really think applied to here, actually bubbled up to the surface. And they were added to our list of obstacles that we were going to pursue. So a slight rephrasing opened up the door for us to look differently at achieving that target condition. Once we set our target condition, we then went on to our experimentation. And as you can see in the upper left of your screen, we wanted to share with you our Do, Check, Act portion of our A3 form that we've been using for many years. And we found it always to be somewhat cumbersome, and it tended to slow down the get out there and do it phase for the experimentation. Quite honestly, an action plan for the entire project takes a lot of effort to develop. So then what we did was, you can see on the main part of the slide here, we borrowed the experiment record from our Kata patterns and placed it into our A3. And what we found was that this experiment record really accelerated the team's activities because they were focused on getting out there and trying to learn from it, to go out there and try something, to learn from it, and to take the next step. And the team quickly realized that we needed to get more operator involvement. So in our specific project here, the A3 actually expanded into multiple improvement kata storyboards to push the experiments to where the information is, to help achieve our challenge here. So the way we like to look at this was that the A3 provided clarity as to what should be done, and the improvement kata provided the confidence to make it happen. Now they're off to the races to make their way to that 25% throughput improvement.
Excellent. So thank you, Gene, for doing that. And as I've written there, thank you very much for trying something where we were a bit unsure as to what the outcome would be, and we all expected to learn something. No worries. So a couple of takeaways that we've heard from Gene there. Go and see. The emphasis of that. We hear that a lot now with these go and see experiments. It's become sort of a bit of a buzzword in the Toyota Kata world and community. We hear that a lot, go and see experiments. And just to understand what that's doing is it's strengthening our gathering of the facts and data. And the other thing that I haven't written up here, I've put as a summary, and I thought about it about 2 hours ago when I woke up in the middle of the night, is that I think what the awareness of the knowledge threshold does is allows us to combine just do it with target conditions. So if we become very conscious of the knowledge threshold concept, it allows us to bring into A3 thinking the just do it's, the obvious actions that are within our knowledge threshold, and combine them with target conditions where we move beyond our knowledge threshold. So really what we're doing is getting the best of both worlds. I had that happen at a winery yesterday. I was sitting in the room and we were talking about, and I said, hang on guys, we're wasting our time here. There's no point worrying about that. It's way down the track. Let's do this step first, and then the next step will become more apparent. And when I understood the intent of that, it's absolutely liberating. I really struggled with that aspect, but now as I've become more understanding of that concept, striving for improvement through A3 thinking or whatever it may be, a fair bit easier actually, because it's that no plan needs to cover everything. That's okay. That's quite liberating.